Okay, sis, how are you doing today?
Uh, I'm good. I'm tired. Like today I feel tired. I feel tired. How about you, sis? How are you today?
I'm damp, actually. I'm very damp. And you're like, yeah, I know. You're like, what? So here's the thing. I'm going through menopause, and like I'm
Ugh.
constantly having hot sweats, and then like not having hot sweats. So then like I'm just damp. So like
Yes.
I feel like my whole life right now is dampness, and it's just that's my life. I live a damp life.
So after I had Eliza, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would be soaked.
Hmm.
And I called my doctor panicking, and she was like, "Yeah, this is a hormone flash." And she said, and I'm like, "But I didn't have this with my first child." And she said, "It's different every time." So it really did take. It took like 3 months for it to kind of stabilize. But every night without fail, I was doing so much laundry because I just every night I was washing the sheets. So yeah, that was fun. So I
Oh
am.
my God, it's crazy.
I
So
feel it.
I wake up in the middle of the night, and it's not every night. So it's like some nights are better than others.
Yeah,
But yeah, so that's where I'm at. And
that sounds not fun.
it's not fun. It's not fun at all. But like I'll tell you, sometimes you're so sleepy you just cuddle yourself in and just wait for it to be warm damp instead
Yes.
of cold
Yeah.
damp.
Get a heating pad because then, maybe it'll help you feel the warmth,
But this
It's
is no just
yeah,
sweat more. I'm not sure this is a good idea.
yeah, you're right. I sleep on a heating pad every night.
Well, my back has been hurting a lot. I have to get a massage because my back is killing me. But I usually sleep. I sleep on a heating pad off and on. But I used to have it so hot that I actually like my back got these bumps,
Yes. I
and
mean,
I was like, oh my God, I have to stop.
well, I think I was talking to Heather about this, and Heather said, there's one of her friends said that you basically, the amount of time you spend talking about your ailments is proportional to your age. So if you're 45, you spend 45% of your time talking about your ailments. And I'm like, that sounds about right.
That really does. Like I'm
I
sitting here
know.
like, wow, how has
Yeah.
nobody figured this out before?
Genius, actually. It's genius.
So okay, so I two things happened this week that I was like, you know what, this is something that we need to talk about, and we
Okay.
touched upon it, I think, in our last conversation. So it's great because we always think we're going to talk about one thing, and then something happens, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, we're talking about this instead. Okay, so we're going to talk about. I want to ask you something about remote work. I'm going to start set that stage, and for a
Yeah.
few reasons. One is that I got a question from somebody who wanted me to post one of their jobs on my hot jobs post.
Which, by the way, your Hot Jobs post, so hot.
Thanks, man. I really love it. It's like it's there's just so many jobs, and when you're actually looking for a job, it's so hard to like get up the energy to go looking,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I love doing it. I love doing it.
So anyway, for anyone here watching who's looking for a position, I highly recommend that you follow Minessa or connect so that you can see those Hot Jobs posts because honestly, they're epic. So
And
continue.
all the jobs, I have a rule. So all jobs have to have a salary that crosses the $80,000 mark.
Nice.
And then the other one is that they have to be remote or hybrid. And occasionally I'll put ones that are not because I think that the job itself is
Mm,
unique or, surprising enough to where I'm like, oh, okay, I think this is just, it's a surprise,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But I had somebody ask me why I wasn't posting, why did I said this isn't going to work? I'm unfortunately because it's not remote or hybrid. And they're very understanding and very cool about it. But it made me think about what we've been hearing all over the place with JP Morgan and with Amazon doing their return to work, and how last week specifically you and I were talking about how this job and this position is so uniquely equipped to be a remote job. So
Hmm.
I kind of wanted to ask you, right? And I like not telling you what we're going to talk about because you do so well when I'm like, "Shh, you go." So here are the things I was thinking, right? So the first is like, what do you think like the journey is going to be for remote work for research administration, and like more importantly, like how do you think the journey should go? Because like you and I are both huge proponents of remote work, so I'm curious to know, how do we, like, why is remote work such a great thing for research administration, and like how do you feel like these companies are shooting themselves in the foot, or companies that hire research administrators, how will they shoot themselves in the foot if they backtrack on that?
Yeah. So, I saw this great article the other day, and I'm sorry, I don't remember where I read it. It was on LinkedIn. I should have shared it, but it was basically this someone, an HR person, was posting about how many jobs were remote or hybrid as of December versus what percent of candidates were looking for remote work. And the disparity was huge because it was like, I'm just going to throw out a number, say 50% of people were looking for remote jobs and only 18% of the jobs were remote.
Wow.
So there was a huge disparity between the candidate pool in terms of what they're looking for and the organizations and what their flexibility is in terms of hybrid and remote. I have a lot to say about this, and I'm trying to think about how to distill this into something succinct, but
You're like, do we have an hour to talk about this?
I just don't think I can. Um, so I think there's layers and layers and layers to this issue. I would say the very first thing is that I think organizations are trying to solve the right problem with the wrong solution. They're looking for, what are the top things that we see that these organizations are saying is their, motivating factor for asking people or demanding people return to work. Either you come back to work or you're fired, right? What is the reason behind it? I think a lot of them feel, and I understand where this is coming from as someone who's managed people before, that innovation and new ideas and community and collaboration and strong relationships really come from that in-person interaction, right? And I guess I can see that there is a value in being face-to-face with somebody and in person, and that the energy exchange that you have with someone when you're right there in front of them. So I understand that philosophy. However, I also think we have to ask ourselves, is the benefit of that worth the price that we're asking our people to pay? And when we really get down to it, people are the commodity. People are what make an organization successful. And what happens when you put people into this position where they're being forced to return to work, they're being forced to reduce their quality of life, they're being forced to commute very long distances. When we're asking people to spend 4 hours in a car instead of 4 hours at home working, what are we really doing to those people that really make up the success of our organization? We are putting them at a disadvantage before they've even put their feet on the ground. We, in 2025, right? I hate to even say that, like 2025,
right?
You hear about technology nonstop, artificial intelligence, robots. Elon Musk is talking about, I don't know how many robots he's going to build before 2027. We're talking about really leveraging technology to bring civilization into like this amazing age, even though I have my concerns because I've seen all the Terminator movies. Like, we know.
Oh, I know, right? We're like,
never mind that.
Come with me if you want to live.
But I wonder, why is it that in a time where technology reigns supreme, right, and we put all of our eggs in this basket of technology, we cannot seem to embrace the benefit that technology gives us in regards to creating remote work environments? Why is it that the place where we're digging our heels in and we're deciding, nope, this is where we draw the line with technology, is when it comes to people working through a screen? Like, why is that the hill that we're choosing to say, oh, no, this is where technology doesn't have a place? It doesn't make any sense. So I would challenge these organizations, and I would say, if you have an issue and you're feeling truly, and I would really push people to look at the metrics, like, is it real or is it just what you feel is real, right?
Yeah.
What does the data say? If you truly have a culture problem, where is that coming from? Is that because I've led people who worked remote before remote was even a thing and had no issue with culture in my team. Does that mean I'm an amazing boss? No, but I think it does mean that because I valued people being able to work remotely and have flexibility and be able to have work-life balance and not spend their entire life commuting and have stress and all those other things, because that was a core value for me, I was willing to put in the work to really figure out and learn how to create that culture online so that my team would be successful. I think if you're starting this from a place of, I don't want remote work, are you going to be able to create that community and culture remotely when you as the leader don't believe in it? I think it's, what I mean? So it's like, where does the issue actually start? Is it the people that are doing the work, or is it the leadership in terms of how they view remote work, and are they putting themselves at a disadvantage and not giving themselves the maximum opportunity to succeed by believing in it? You know what I mean? I think the other thing, and this is something I care about even more, is I understand that there are certain jobs that really require the in-person, like you can't build a house remotely, right? I get that.
Not yet.
Not yet. You can't. Maybe we can 3D print them soon.
I know, that's what I was thinking. Can you 3D print a house?
Actually, you probably can. Electricians, right? If there's an electrical problem, most of the time they're going to have to come out and do that stuff. HVAC work. There's definitely things that, I understand that there's a place in society for those types of jobs that are very hands-on. But I think for a lot of jobs, especially ours, having this mindset of, oh no, we're not going the remote way, everyone has to come in, uh, you're, it's a very, and I say this with trepidation, but it's a very ableist view of your
Mm-hmm.
workforce. That everybody who's qualified to do the work, it means you have to do XYZ things to be physically present. And I know for a fact that there are people, I mean, look at us, right? There are people who are chronically ill. Um,
We're caregivers for people who are chronically ill or elder care or children. Like there's, for whatever reason, lots of people have frameworks that
yes.
do not permit them the ability to leave the house who would now have to leave this job.
Yep. And I think, and who does that serve? And who does that benefit? And I really think it's an important question is to say, when we have the technology that allows us to create jobs and opportunities for individuals who may not be able to just hop in a car and drive to work, why are we not creating an environment where they are able to compete equally? And that the fact that they can't physically get to the job, that should not be the disqualifier for me in a job like this. I think that it's really about, are you showing up? Are you getting your work done? Are you building relationships? Are you available when people need you within the workday, right? We're not talking about being on
Right,
call, right?
during the workday.
Um, if all
Because,
of those,
let's come back to that because I would bet you dollars to donuts that even the places that have return to work policies that are happening are not scaling back on their level of interference in terms of the work that needs to get done and reaching out. So like right now we're at home and so work seems to permeate many parts of our lives,
yeah,
whether or not you have boundaries, right? And one of the benefits of going into the office was that okay, you leave your work at work and then you just come home.
yeah.
But we've now already developed a culture where your work goes with you everywhere. So my guess would be that for a lot of organizations, even if you have the back to work, there's still an expectation of either stay late or work when you're at home, and so now you're losing out on multiple fronts if you're an employee.
It's a huge price to pay. It's a huge price. And I think, and I just don't see the reason. I have yet to see any evidence that really shows me, especially in our industry, that there's any material advantage to people spending hours and hours, especially if you work in a city, right? If you have to commute and deal with all that traffic, let's not even get into, the carbon footprint stuff. You
Oh
know,
my God, Saira was talking to Fred today, and Fred lives like right down the street from where he works, and he said it's only like 8 minutes, but it takes me 45 minutes to
yeah,
drive there because I gotta go. And I said that's the truth because he has to take the Jamaica way, and I said that's the truth. Anywhere in Boston, it doesn't matter where you are, you can be 2 blocks away. It's gonna take you 45 minutes to get where you need to
it's
go.
45 minutes, right? It's 45 minutes. I think there's more advantages to continuing with remote work than there are disadvantages. And I truly and passionately believe that when we really stop and consider, I understand the problem that people are trying to solve by applying this solution. But I don't think it's the right solution. I think there are lots of other ways that people can still live full, wonderful, balanced lives in a remote world. We have the technology to do it in the jobs where it's not a requirement, meaning the job cannot happen, right? It's not that you don't like how the job is happening. If the job literally cannot happen unless there's a physical body there, like working in an emergency room or trauma surgeons, right? I understand those things. I'm talking about the kinds of jobs that we do. I just don't see that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, personally.
One of the things you said is you learned the skills to be a manager who was able to create culture in teams remotely.
Yes, how we used to
And I
talk
think
about
one of the
remote work
challenges
before
that
we.
exists with remote work is that, for managers, is that, and I noticed this happening all over during COVID, is there was a lot of actually innovation during COVID, but now it seems like the way that we do remote work is merely let's copy what we did in person and mimic it online. And the way you
Oh
build
yeah.
teams online is a little bit different than that, right? And so, like Sabrina, she is so good at building remote work. We're gonna have her on. Oh my God, we're gonna have her on to talk about how she does that. She's great at building a team remotely. And it has to do with the tools that you use to create
Oh, 100%.
that camaraderie and those relationships. And then it also has to do
Mm-hmm.
with how much you trust your workers. Because I think there's something, I think I saw this on LinkedIn the other day, and I'm going to say it wrong, but it was basically talking about how a lot of times there is a lot of distrust of workers. Like, what are they doing? Are they Are they not, are they working when are they not working when they should be? Oh my God, did they put a load of laundry in while they were,
Yeah.
waiting on a call? And, I think that the expectations, it's weird because at some point we lost touch with like the purpose of everything. Like, why are we doing this, right? And we're doing this because we want to get work done and submit grants and help PIs and so on and so forth. And if somebody's performance is not suffering,
Yeah.
then what does it matter if they're throwing a load of laundry in? It's a different conversation if someone, and this is, I think, an important thing to note, if someone is not performing and they have performance issues and they're remote, it could very well be that the remoteness is part of that problem because there are some people who really like to be in person and being remote alienate. Like there was somebody who I knew who actually really wanted to go back in because they said I get very depressed if I'm at home. And so
Yeah, for
for
sure, for
them,
sure.
that's a choice, but that's a choice that they make to say I want to be able to go in. I would say that there's probably definitely a subset of people who want to
Yeah.
do that, and for them there are opportunities. But I think that having
Yeah.
it mandated makes it so that someone like me, for example, or someone who is neurodivergent, who has to now spend all of their time focusing on getting ready, making sure they get to the car, driving the thing. There's so much mental and emotional energy that is used on all of these processes that by the time you get to work, you sit down. And I remember doing this even when I went to work. Okay,
Yeah.
you'd sit and you're like, okay, and you take like 10 minutes just to get yourself, situated, and then you'd start your day. And then you'd have a 2-hour commute on the way
Yep.
back. And it's
You'd
like,
sit down and it was
wait a
like,
minute. I could actually like you'll get more out of me. You will get more out of me when I'm remote than you will. And the other thing I think is really interesting, especially for our job, because like we've done a lot of naysaying now, but I want to actually turn a little bit and kind of
yeah.
focus on what makes like why is remote work so great. And what I think is so great is because Saira and I for a while we ran actually Saira still runs a boutique, but I did it with her for a while, and we ran coaching groups for helping people grow their businesses and so on. And so we learned a lot about remote work during that time and building relationships and how do you get things done and build community, because these are people who are literally working to feed themselves, and so they're going to be working like constantly. And what we found is that shit, hold on, I lost, hold on, it was really good. Oh yeah, yeah. What we found is that people who excelled in at doing the work were people who, what was
I love
interesting,
this. This is great.
people who were chronically ill, who were caregivers, who were marginalized members of communities, black, brown, and here's why. It's because for so many business owners who are of that ilk, the systems are not set up to support us. If you are autistic, if you are chronically ill, a caregiver, the systems around, they're just not set up to support us, right? And so we had to go out of our way to figure out how to do things legally, build the systems for our business, and kind of grow that way. And what was interesting is when we sort of like when you put that same foil on research administration, what you find is that our job as research administrators is it's not black and white. It's always gray. There's always like sure some things are okay. This is black and white, and those are. I love it when those come. When there's something that is black and white, I'm like yes, and then I'm like, but is it really that black and white? Let's talk about this a little bit because if you're so sure, it depends,
I
right?
know.
So if you live in a world where everything is it depends, you're looking for people who are
It
comfortable
depends.
navigating that space of compliance, operationalization, finding ways to get things done. And who knows how to do that better than groups of people who have been marginalized and having to fight the system their whole life, right? And these are also people who thrive in
Yep.
remote work environments because it gives them the ability to show up for themselves, show up for their families, and show up at work
It's
at
true.
their very
Yeah.
best. And so I feel like it's like it's you're literally saying I will cut the legs out from under you. The very skill sets that I want to hire you for is the very thing that I'm going to tell you you can't do now.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's just so to me, I think, I was very lucky in that at a time before remote work was even a thing, I had a great boss. And I actually will say, he was a leader because he really understood that the quality of my work had nothing to do with my location. And that by giving me the opportunity to remote work or hybrid work, he was going to retain me longer and he was going to extract a better performance from me because I felt like an individual. I knew that the person who was responsible for my professional performance, aside from me, like I'm in charge of my own performance, but he's the one giving my reviews and telling me how well I'm doing and, looking to see if I'm delivering. If he's treating me as an individual and he's understanding that, look, if Saira has to commute 4 hours a day every day, that's actually 4 times 5, 20 hours a week of productivity I could get that I'm not getting because I'm forcing her to get into a car. So let's see if the evidence is there, right? Let's see how it goes. How does the remote work? How does she do? And if she does a good job, then what is the reason to not do it, right? Is there any reason not to do it? So I think that there were a lot of pioneers. There were a lot of people who were advocates for this kind of remote work environment well before COVID, well before remote work was a thing. And Spotify posted this, whatever billboard or whatever, and it said we're not going back to, we're not doing it. We are going to trust our staff and they're going to stay remote. That's our commitment. I think that was Spotify. And I think there's something to be said for organizations that recognize that it's the people that are in the organization that build the power of that organization. Loyalty, performance, it comes from something bigger than just $1 for a day, right? This is your work. This is your job. Clock in, clock out. Is that what you want? Or do you want someone who's passionate about what they do and they show up and execute and do a good job, not just because they need to pay their bills, but because they're doing something they believe in a place that believes in them? And I think that when we have that, that's the culture, right? Culture, and I saw this the other day on LinkedIn too, culture is not what you say you do. Culture is what you make people feel. Culture is when your employee goes to bed on a Sunday night restful, not anxious about Monday morning. They go to sleep at night feeling at peace because they're going to wake up in the morning. Maybe they have a leisurely coffee with their husband or wife or spouse or partner, or they sit with their dogs and look out the window at their chickens or, whatever it is that they do. And then they sit down at their desk and they're not doing what you just did. They're sitting down excited. They're ready to go and give their best to their day because yes, it's a job. And yes, I understand all of that, they need to get paid and they need to pay their bills and their mortgage and all that stuff. But they're also sitting down with enthusiasm because they know they're giving the best hours of their life to an organization that values them as human beings outside of just their contributions to the organization. That is culture. And I'm so sad when I see posts on LinkedIn over and over and over again that say, don't make the mistake of thinking your work cares about you. Like, why are we accepting this? Why are we fostering this culture in professionalism that says that we have to have this?
They are going to be on the podcast later. And they were talking about how all companies say they want you to feel like we're family and we're in it together, right? But in the end, they don't. A lot of times, people do not feel like they're treated like family, or someone will say this is a safe space without recognizing that you don't just get to say the words that we're family. And number two is that often the people who are saying we're family are in the positions of power. The people who are saying this is a safe space are in positions of power, and the people who actually need to be saying this are the people who are the workers, right? The person who is actually doing the work. They're the ones who need to say, we're like a family here. I feel safe here. I feel safe, not someone saying this is a safe space. Yeah, this is a safe space. Yeah, thank you. I feel very safe now.
I feel safe. Yeah, I feel. Yes. Yes. Oh, thank you for telling me. And I actually made a post about this yesterday, talking about Mark Miller when he gave me some difficult feedback when I was, in my early 20s, and at the time I remember feeling so incredibly just disappointed, right? But I know. I was like, Mark! But I think what Mark did so incredibly well is micro behaviors repeated consistently over an extended period of time. It was not those big moments that were like, I feel safe. It was those tiny moments, right? It was not being afraid to say, oh, you know what? I have a terrible migraine today. I need to stay home. And instead of me feeling fearful that maybe this was going to impact my job, I never felt that way. I always knew, because of the way Mark treated me, that he knew me and he trusted me, and that he knew that I wasn't saying, oh, I have a migraine because, I wanted to, not show it to work. I was sick, like I loved my work. But if I had a migraine and I couldn't function, I need to take the day, right? And he never, but it was those little things, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all about like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. Don't even worry about it. Feel better soon. Versus, well, we'll have to figure out how to get by without you. Like, it's all about those little interactions, right? How do you make your teams feel? And I think if you really want to build a culture of loyalty, enthusiasm, excitement, you have to understand your team. You have to take the time to get to know them. Management is not about telling people what to do. Management is not about telling people, oh, you missed this deadline, you missed this deadline. Management is about understanding your team, what motivates them, what brings them joy, and finding ways as a manager to foster and cultivate that in your organization so that you're setting them up to succeed, and by doing so, setting yourself up to succeed, right? We extract the best performance from employees when we give them a reason to,
What is happening?
It's not enough to just say, do a good job. People have to be inspired. At least that's how
fine.
I feel.
It's totally fine. I actually,
it's my
all of our bloopers. We're sitting here and suddenly it's like thud, thud, thud.
It's because Butch has snow. Butchie just came home.
Oh my God. Hey, good to see you. Oh my God, what are you doing over there?
Let's say hi to Minessa so they can see how.
I'm a little greasy.
I don't know. He's like right there. I mean, I can see like his neck up, down. I don't know. Now I don't see anything. Oh, there you go.
You can see me?
Can they see you or no?
Bye.
Oh, why can't I see you?
Hi.
It's number. Well, that's okay. We actually hit 12:30 on that one. I just have to say,
Bye.
dude, you have been like poetry today. So gas society. Oh my God, so much good stuff. So here's the thing, right? So to wrap up, remote work is like,
really?
Some people find it easy, some people find it hard, but I want to recommend follow us on LinkedIn, Saira and Minessa. The links will be in the show notes. Follow me on YouTube. We're going to have an interview with Sabrina Heisey at some point, and I have been, she creates remote teams really, really well. She's very good at it. And so what we're going to talk about is how do you operationalize some of this. So if somebody's like, listen, I know I can build a good team, I just don't know how to do it remotely. How do I not just try to copy what we did in person? Sabrina's going to have some great stuff for you. So
yes.
We're going to get that up there. So thank you everybody for joining us, and have a wonderful.
And I would love to hear from all of you what your thoughts are on remote work versus going back into the office, and what are some of the advantages that you think, and look, let's be non-biased here, right? What are some of the things that maybe going back into work would actually help with? Because maybe by discussing it openly without judgment, we can figure out ways to bring those things that people believe can only be accomplished through in person. Maybe we can find ways to discuss those and come up with creative ways to bring that into the remote world. I would love to hear from you.